On New Year's Day, she mysteriously collapsed until a cowboy revealed, "Get up, you're going home." The sprawling Texas ranch felt hollow as Sarah hurried through the familiar rooms, memories echoing in every corner. Today was supposed to be a celebration, but with her father gone, it felt like a tribute overshadowed by the weight of obligation. The walls seemed to close in on her as she prepped for the gathering, the legacy of her late father heavy on her shoulders. She could almost hear his laughter mingling with the distant sound of cattle, but it only deepened her sense of loss. Would she ever be able to do his dream justice? Dropping her son off at her mother's was stressful enough, but the pressures of juggling two jobs and the escalating costs of her nursing classes churned within her. As Sarah half-heartedly rearranged decorations, each colorful bauble turned into another reminder of the life she wanted for her son and the crippling health debts that tethered them. Her stomach knotted with the incessant voice in her head whispering doubts. Was she enough? Would she ever be enough? Suddenly, the room blurred around her. Exhaustion clawed at her limbs, and for a moment, she felt as if she was standing on the precipice of a vast canyon, the wind threatening to toss her in. Then, darkness. It struck like lightning. "Sarah!" The shout echoed through her unconscious thoughts as she succumbed to the ground, her muscles yielding to the fall. Panic surged in the room as family members rushed to her side, each face contorted with fear and confusion. Flashes of faces, each laden with concern, drowned her in guilt. Amid the chaos, a steady presence knelt beside her, the rugged figure of Jake. His familiar warmth wrapped around her like a lasso, a tether to a past that had always felt secure. A hint of musty leather mixed with the scent of hay wafted over her. He gripped her shoulder, his words clear and strong even through her fog. "Get up. You're going home." Pulse racing, she blinked away the days. It was as if his voice pried open the door of resilience she didn't know existed within her. What did he mean by home? Would she ever truly return there, or was she adrift in a world of unfulfilled expectations and dwindling hopes? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clarity flooded her mind as Jake's presence sharpened the moment. He spoke of hidden family truths, secret vows that intertwined their paths. Why had her father held these dreams close? Sarah felt a swell of anger at the burden thrust upon her. Why had he left her alone at this crossroads, faced with the expectations from a family that was still reeling? Tension crackled in the air, accusations lacing their concerned whispers. Could she confront her family's demands without shattering what was left of their fragile unit? Memories washed over her, her father's voice urging her forward, kindling her yearning to become a nurse, to rescue those in need. Amidst it all, the ranch stood silent, a monument to aspirations interrupted. Each familial gaze weighed down upon her, harboring unspoken resentments. And as Jake's words echoed doubts and possibilities in her mind, a shiver ran through her. Standing at the edge of her family's expectations and her dreams, she felt the ghosts of legacy urging her forward. Would she reclaim her father's visions, or would she succumb to the very fears that had shadowed her all these years? Shaken and unsure, Sarah pressed her lips together. The question lingered, leaving her teetering on the edge of an uncertain tomorrow. The air felt electric as Sarah's mind raced, tethered between the remnants of her father's past hope and her own future dreams. Jake's steady presence anchored her as she gradually regained her strength, but emotions flared inside her like a wildfire. He was a whisper of solace, yet also a reminder of the expectations she now carried. "Sarah, I'm here," Jake urged softly, his voice melting the chaos that surrounded her. Each word chipped away at her hesitation. It felt like a breath of fresh air in a stuffy room, but still, shadows lurked within. Could she truly confront her fears? And what was she willing to sacrifice to find her own path? "Why did you come?" she asked, the question slipping from her lips before she could think to hold it back. Did she want to draw the line between past and present? Or was it a plea for clarity amidst the swelling tides of responsibility? He leaned closer. The weariness in his eyes mirrored the weight on her shoulders. "Because we both know this isn't just about me or your family. It's about you. You have to decide what kind of nurse you want to be, not just for them or for your father, but for yourself. His words crashed into her, and for the first time, she felt the weight of her decisions crystallize into something tangible. She was here, at this ranch, surrounded by the echoes of her father's dreams, yet she couldn't let the past determine her future. She shuddered at the thought. She had spent too many nights worrying that she would drown in obligation, too afraid to step into the unknown. Sometimes I feel like I'm lost in a haze, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to follow through with my nursing, but the burden? I don't know if I can handle it. Jake sighed, a deep, resonant sound, reminding her of the strength of the land beneath them. You've already shown strength, Sarah. You've been working 2 jobs and going to nursing school when others would have given up. Don't doubt your own capabilities. His reassurance struck her like a thunderclap, sending currents of determination zipping through her veins. Yet doubt still lingered, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. What if I fail? What if I can't keep the ranch? The vulnerability in her voice surprised her, as if laying bare her soul would free her of its shackles. We all have fears, Jake replied, his gaze unwavering. But you can choose how those fears drive you. Use them as fuel, not shackles. Your father left you this place not only as a legacy, but as a challenge to find your own wings. Silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the low calling of cattle outside. The ranch was indeed a challenge filled with history, weighty legacies, yet also room for growth and discovery. There was something powerful about reclaiming her father's dream while merging it with her own vision for the future. As Sarah stood, realization began to crystallize. She held the pen to her story, even amidst the storm of expectation. Maybe it's time to redefine what home means for me, she mused, her voice firmer now. The concept felt liberating, a doorway to possibilities. Exactly, Jake smiled, the earnestness in his expression lifting her spirit. You're stronger than you think. Embrace it. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a jarring reminder of impending responsibilities. A quick glance revealed a message from her nursing instructor. Important meeting tomorrow. Bring your concerns. The words shivered in her hands as she pondered the implications. Would this be her opportunity to reclaim control, to voice her fears and determine the path ahead? Jake, she began, the urge to confide flooding back. What am I supposed to say when it's time? He squeezed her shoulder, warmth pooling in her chest. Say whatever you need to say. Sometimes vulnerability is the greatest strength. The time was coming to confront the very fears that threatened to impede her growth. Shadows danced in her mind, but determination flickered brightly too. And as she prepared to navigate the storm of unspoken expectations, a newfound resolve enveloped her. The moment for action approached, pregnant with uncertainty and opportunity. What lay ahead? The boundary line between fear and courage stretched before her, ready to be crossed. Would she seize the moment or allow the ghosts of her father's legacy to bind her? The choice was hers to make, and only time would tell if she had the courage to embrace her true self. The dawn broke over the ranch, casting golden rays across the quiet pastures. Sarah rubbed her eyes as she sat up in bed, the events of the previous day slowly converging into clarity. It was a new day, a chance to reclaim her narrative. The past clung to her like a thick fog, but the sun peeking through her window felt like a call to action. She glanced at her phone again, contemplating the upcoming meeting with her nursing instructor. This was it, a pivotal moment awaiting her decision. What if she drew upon the determination she'd felt the day before? What if she stepped into that room armed with vulnerability and resolve? With an urgency she hadn't felt in months, she hopped out of bed and into her well-worn boots. Each step echoed the thoughts swirling in her mind, the echoes of Jake's encouragement still fresh. She realized she needed to approach this meeting not just as a student, but as someone worthy of her own aspirations, someone who could advocate for her own path in life. As she made her way to the kitchen, Sarah paused to look out the window. Acres of land beckoned. Her father's legacy mixed with the stirring desire to forge her own direction. Tune into the rhythm of the ranch, she thought. The cows lowed softly, and a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, inspiring a sense of calm she hadn't felt for far too long. She brewed a cup of coffee, its rich aroma filling the small space, and allowed herself to take a deep breath. The simple act grounded her, It reminded her of why she'd persevered through sleepless nights and the physical toll of juggling two jobs while attending nursing school. Fire sparked within her as she mentally prepared for the meeting. Not only would she discuss her struggles, but she would also share her visions. Her mind filled with destinations, pathways forward, and choices waiting to be made. Would she seize the opportunity to explain the weight on her shoulders? Her fears tangled with her aspirations, but they also formed the essence of her story. After breakfast, she opened her nursing textbook sprawled across the table, pages marked with notes. She skimmed her highlighted passages, empowering herself with knowledge that echoed her ambition. This meeting wouldn't be about fear, but about growth. It was her chance to articulate how the chaos in her life mirrored the landscape outside. Both could flourish with the right nurturing. As she dressed for the day, she looked in the mirror. The woman staring back no longer resembled the girl filled with doubt. Instead, she saw someone who was ready to confront her challenges head-on. Today was not only a test of her nursing future, but also a choice to embrace who she truly was. A daughter, a worker, and most importantly, a resilient individual ready for independence. With a final glance, she grabbed her bag and stepped outside. Each stride towards her car felt purposeful. Yet somewhere in the background, lingering anxieties whispered, probing her resolve. What if this opportunity shifted her trajectory in ways she couldn't anticipate? What if her mention of leaving the ranch, that tether of responsibility, invited backlash? She pushed the small voice aside, focusing instead on the expansive horizon ahead. Once she reached her car, she paused, taking in the serene surroundings with all its complexities. The golden light spilled over the landscape akin to potential waiting to be tapped. Driving to the school, uncertainty danced at the edges, but determination ignited her spirit. Each intersection seemed to mirror her internal crossroads, decisions that could change everything. As she parked and stepped into the building, she felt an exhilarating rush of possibilities. She was entering a realm of potential opportunities, ready to claim her authority over her own narrative. The classroom buzzed with familiar faces, fragments of shared experiences hanging thick in the air. As she approached her instructor, her heart raced. The moment was now. In that two-part formation of courage and fear, she felt the weight of the legacy she carried. Then she remembered Jake's words. Vulnerability was strength. Steeling her resolve, she took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to bridge the chasm between expectation and future. But what response awaited her as she revealed her truth? Would this meeting open new doors or slam them shut? The answer loomed like an unanswered question on the horizon, waiting to unfold. The air in the classroom buzzed with an unspoken tension as Sarah approached her instructor, the anticipation thickening with each deliberate step. While the students chatted among themselves, Sarah focused on the knot in her stomach, willing it to loosen. She was at a crossroads, and with every heartbeat, the weight of her decision pressed heavier on her chest. "Sarah, good to see you," her instructor said, momentarily pulling her from the fog of uncertainty. The warmth in her voice was a contrast to the cold dread pooling in Sarah's gut. "Thanks for meeting with me," Sarah replied, striving to sound confident. She nodded, settling into the embrace of the moment and the possibility it held. But even as she spoke, questions cascaded through her mind. Would her instructor understand? Could she convey the depth of her struggles and the dreams she held close, like a lifeline against drowning? "Let's hear what's on your mind," her instructor encouraged, gesturing toward a chair. Sarah took a seat, feeling as if the very act of sitting down signified surrender. But she shook off that thought and focused. She had come too far to turn back now. "I've been feeling overwhelmed with everything," she started, her voice wavering slightly as she pushed through the uncertainty. "Between working two jobs, my coursework, and managing the ranch, I feel torn between my responsibilities and my aspirations." As those words slipped from her lips, a surprising clarity washed over her. She wasn't just spilling her fears, she was asserting her reality. Each fragment of her life blended into an intricate tapestry that illustrated not only her struggles, but also her potential. The instructor nodded, her expression signaling understanding. "That's a lot for anyone to manage, Sarah, but it sounds like you're at a critical juncture. What are you hoping to achieve with nursing?" Sarah paused. "I want to help people," she said, her conviction strengthening. "But I also want to break free from the constraints of the ranch. It's my father's legacy, but I want my own." The instructor leaned in closer, her eyes sharp. "Are you prepared for the struggle that comes with that kind of change, though? Leaving behind a legacy can be daunting." A flicker of doubt crept in as Sarah considered the truth in those words. Her mind raced through memories of her childhood, of the bonds forged in the soil of that land. Forging a new identity felt like a fracture. Yet, within that fracture lay the possibility of growth, and she couldn't overlook it. "Sometimes, I think about what my life could look like away from all this," Sarah confessed, a pulse of fear lacing her tone. "But what if it isn't as easy as I imagine? What if I fail?" "Failure is part of growth," her instructor said simply, a measured tone that encapsulated a truth Sarah had often overlooked. "It's about learning, adjusting, and evolving. You're undertaking a rigorous path. Embrace both the successes and the setbacks." Those words landed, solid and heavy. Sarah felt them press against her heart, a reminder of the journey ahead. She couldn't shy away from the complexity of her emotions. With a deep breath, she pondered the life-changing question her instructor had just posed. "What if my path is unclear?" Her instructor smiled gently. "Then it becomes your adventure. Navigating uncertainty is what creates depth in a person." That resonated deeply within Sarah, awakening a part of her that had long been dormant. She felt the need to reclaim her adventure as the weight of her narrative shifted from one of resignation to one of hope. "Maybe I'll take some time to evaluate what I really want," Sarah finally said, emboldened. "Maybe even start small. Look into shadowing opportunities at nearby clinics." "That's the spirit," her instructor replied. "But don't sell yourself short. You have the capability to lead in this field. Trust in your abilities to adapt." Their conversation marked a turning point, but beneath the newfound determination lingered the question of how far-reaching her choices would be. Would her prospects ignite a fire that dispelled the shadows of her past, or would they plunge her back into uncertainty? As Sarah exited the classroom, a sense of possibility washed over her, yet an unsettling thought intruded. The closer she stepped toward her ambitions, the more she felt the specter of her obligations to the ranch looming behind her. Those commitments had been her anchor, but as her desire for independence surged, she realized that the currents of change also threatened to pull her away from the past she held dear. Would she have the power to navigate this complexity without losing herself? The question bristled in the air, tantalizingly unresolved, echoing inside her mind as she made her way back to her car. Each step pulsed with potential, but an underlying tension remained. Was this truly the direction she wanted to pursue? The horizon shimmered with promise, but shadows lurked, quietly questioning her resolve. How would she find balance between her past and her future, between obligation and independence? The path forward began to seem clearer, yet every new direction twisted the question into an intricate labyrinth. Would she navigate this maze successfully, or would her search for clarity lead her deeper into uncertainty? The drive home felt different, charged with a new intensity. As Sarah navigated the familiar route along the winding road, the sprawling fields of her family's ranch seemed to pulse with a life of their own, mirroring her internal struggle. Each bump in the path drew her deeper into thought, unraveling a web of conflicting emotions. She parked her car with a sense of purpose, stepping out and inhaling the crisp air, which felt cleansing yet burdened with unspoken obligations. The ranch loomed behind her like a comforting shadow, its presence both grounding and suffocating. The beauty of the land tugged at her heart, yet it sang a haunting song of responsibility that threatened to shackle her ambitions. As she walked toward the barn, Sarah paused, observing the delicate dance of the autumn leaves swirling in the wind. Change was in the air, yet she remained rooted. What did it mean to break free? The thought gnawed at her, a vision both enticing and terrifying. Inside the barn, the scent of hay and earth enveloped her, grounding her in the life she knew. Yet, as she approached the horses, she felt an awareness creeping up her spine, urging her to step beyond the threshold of what she had always accepted as her fate. "Hey there, buddy," she murmured to Duke, her chestnut gelding. His soft nicker provided a momentary balm to her fraying confidence. As she groomed him, she pondered each stroke of the brush as a metaphor for the changes she yearned for. How many more days would she spend here in a life predetermined by her family's legacy? The weight of her ambitions pushed against her ribs as she realized how many evenings she'd spent simply maintaining her family's connection to the ranch, never daring to envision a life apart from it. Would nursing offer the fulfillment she craved? Could she reconcile her passion for helping others with the ethos of her upbringing? With each thoughtful motion, she began to feel a flicker of resolve. Maybe it was time to write her own narrative, one that allowed her to honor her roots while also claiming her future. The idea of shadowing at local clinics felt like a lifeline, a bridge to a different world where she could learn and grow. But as clarity surfaced, a disturbing thought intruded. What if attempting to follow this new path only resulted in failure? The fear of disappointment loomed larger than ever. What if pursuing her dreams meant losing the very essence of who she was? In that moment, she straightened, the brush pausing mid-stroke. What if the fear of failure is what has been holding you back? She whispered to herself. The realization struck with a freshness that sent a shiver through her. She had been willing to accept the fear of the unknown as an excuse. Perhaps tackling her fears head-on was the only way to grow. With renewed determination, Sarah resolved to approach her instructor again, seeking advice, structure, and perhaps a mentor. The thought sparked a fire within her, igniting a crusade against the complacency that had settled over her life. "You owe it to yourself," she murmured, tightening her grip on Duke's harness. As she finished grooming, a plan started to form. She would create a schedule where nursing possibilities and ranch duties could coexist, allowing her both passion and obligation. It was time to draw the contours of her life with bold strokes, creating an intricate design that could encompass both worlds. Returning to her car, her heart thrummed with energy, fueled by the belief that the complexities of her choices could be channeled into growth. Every shift in her plan would involve risk, but with risk came evolution. As she drove back toward the house, an unexpected swell of excitement filled her. Days of struggling with her identity began to feel like a necessary prelude to her true self, the self she was ready to claim. But just as exhilaration washed over her, another thought hovered on the horizon. How would her family react to her shift in priorities? Would they understand her quest for independence, or would they resist the change she had decided was vital? The challenges ahead loomed, both exhilarating and intimidating. Would she have the courage to face those who might challenge her decisions? The time had come to find out. The following morning, the sun streamed through the kitchen window, casting golden rays across the wooden table where Sarah had always enjoyed breakfast with her family. Today, however, the warmth felt hollow. A quiet anticipation built within her as she prepared for the conversation that would shape her future. Each clang of the pot echoed her racing heart as she set out plates, hoping that the familiar ritual would ground her. While brewing coffee, she could sense her family's routines unfolding in the background. Her father, rugged and devoted, was already outside tending to the herd, and her mother would soon appear, brightening the space with her cheerful chatter. Would they see the change in her? Could they grasp the internal battle that raged beneath her composed exterior? Once seated, Sarah's mind replayed snippets of the plan she'd constructed. Approach her instructor about shadowing, start a schedule that balanced nursing and ranch responsibilities, eventually choose her own narrative. Yet, she couldn't escape the clenching fear that accompanied her resolve, the fear of disappointing the legacy that shaped her existence. "Morning, sweetheart," her mother called, her smile as warm as the sun creeping through the window. "What's on your agenda today?" "Just some errands. I have a meeting later," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The truth lingered on the tip of her tongue, but revealing her aspirations felt like opening a door to uncertainty. Her father walked in, wiping his hands on his jeans, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts. "We need to talk about the winter feed for the cattle, Sarah. We've been going through it faster than expected." "Sure, Dad," she nodded, but her mind was far away. Breathing in the rich aroma of coffee, she questioned whether her desire to shift paths could coexist with the stark reality of the ranch's demands. Moments later, her mother's voice interrupted her thoughts. "You seem a little distant today. Everything okay?" The question hung in the air, thick with anticipation. The moment felt pivotal, a slippery, precise edge that could tip either way. "Actually, there's something I want to discuss with both of you," she began, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her coffee mug. "Is this about the feed? Because I can assure you we'll get that sorted," her father offered, a hint of worry shadowing his brows. "No, I've been thinking a lot about my future." She took a breath, feeling the weight of the words she was about to say. "I want to pursue nursing." Silence enveloped the room. Her parents exchanged glances. Uncertainty hung thick in the air like a fog. "Nursing?" Her father's voice was measured. "You want to leave the ranch?" "It's not about leaving. It's about adding to my life. I want to help people. I feel it's what I need to do for myself, she pressed, desperation creeping into her tone. Yet, as she spoke, a stirring within her suggested she might be losing their support rather than winning it. Her mother's eyes softened, but her voice was uncertain. Honey, we're proud of everything you do here. Can't you find a way to balance both? The question sliced deep. Did they see her aspirations as a choice or a betrayal? It's not as simple as that. I feel like I'm meant for more than just what? Her father interjected, his patience fleeting. The intensity of his gaze felt like a rope tightening around her throat. Caught between loyalty and ambition, Sarah's mind scrambled for reasoning. I want to make a difference, Dad. Stay connected to the ranch, but also pursue this dream. Isn't that something you can support? The atmosphere shifted, fraught with an unsaid tension, mounting like an impending storm. Her father finally broke the silence. There are sacrifices in every choice. Just don't forget there are people counting on you here. His words landed heavily, reflecting the crux of her conflict. Internal gnawing began anew, challenging her sense of identity, the law of expectations against the pulse of her growing aspirations. Just as her resolve threatened to wither, her mother reached across the table, her hand warm against Sarah's. We just want to keep you close. Maybe keeping me close means letting me explore, she shot back, emotion flaring. The confrontation unveiled a barely explored depth within her, a refusal to let fear dictate her fate. As they faced the fog of misunderstanding, Sarah felt a flicker of courage arise. The conversation had ignited something in her, a desperate need to bridge the chasm between who she had been and who she could become. Would they understand? Would she have enough strength to push through their hesitations without losing herself? As her family remained in silence, Sarah sensed the real challenge lay ahead, not just in convincing them, but in holding tightly to her truth when everything that shaped her world seemed poised against it. The moment had arrived to redefine herself entirely, but the stakes suddenly felt impossibly high. Would her family accept the metamorphosis, or would she be forced to choose between their expectations and her true path? Feeling the electrifying tension course through her veins, Sarah knew the next step demanded more than talk. It required action. What would she uncover about herself on this precarious journey? The following day, as the sun rose again, casting light on the tangled routines of the ranch, Sarah grappled with the confrontation that still echoed in her mind. She had left the breakfast table shaken but resolute. The warmth of the sun felt different now, less about comfort and more of a push toward her next step. Coffee in hand, she stepped outside, inhaling the crisp morning air that was already seasoned with the earthy scent of the fields. Determined to forge ahead, she resolved to visit her nursing instructor, Mrs. Linden, who had been a beacon of insight during her pre-nursing classes. Every thought of their prior conversations brought a mixture of eagerness and anxiety. How would she articulate her need to pursue nursing against the backdrop of ranch life? Meeting Mrs. Linden represented not just a chance to explore her ambitions, but to carve out an identity separate from the expectations imposed upon her. The drive to town felt different this time. With each turn of the tires, she mentally synthesized her intention, to seek clarity in a direction fraught with uncertainty. As she parked in front of the community college, her heart thrummed an urgent rhythm. This was the moment she had planned for. It was time to shed the weight of familial expectations. Walking into the familiar classroom, she caught Mrs. Linden's gaze. The seasoned instructor, nurturing yet demanding, stood beside her cluttered desk, surrounded by stacks of textbooks and medical supplies. "Sarah, what brings you here?" the instructor asked, her warm smile instantly calming the storm of nerves swirling inside Sarah. "Mrs. Linden, I've been thinking a lot about my future in nursing," Sarah began, her voice steady yet soft, testing the waters of vulnerability. The instructor nodded, encouraging her to continue. "You know I've always been passionate about this, but I'm at a crossroads. My family, they depend a lot on me at the ranch. It's just, there's more I want to do. I want to help people, and I think nursing is my path," she explained, the words tumbling out as if shaking loose from the roots of her fears. Mrs. Linden leaned back, adjusting her glasses, a glimmer of understanding sparking in her eyes. "It sounds like you've been doing some serious soul-searching. Balancing your dreams with family obligations is no small feat. But tell me, what's your plan moving forward?" A flush of realization ignited within Sarah. Here, in front of this woman who understood the weight of both the heart and ambition, she felt a beam of strength. I imagine a schedule that lets me shadow at the hospital while still being available on the ranch. I want to incorporate both into my life, gradually. Shadowing is a brilliant start, but you must understand, nursing is demanding. If you're going to manage both, you'll need a support system. Have you considered discussing a detailed plan with your family? Mrs. Linden's question held layers of insight that resonated deeply. It wasn't just about her commitment to both paths, it was about clarity and communication. I guess I haven't thought of it that way, Sarah admitted, a frown knitting her brows. The realization was like a light bulb moment. She needed not just the courage to pursue her goals, but to involve her family actively in understanding that bridge she desired to create. Mrs. Linden's voice broke through her thoughts again. Remember, Sarah, pursuing nursing will also challenge you. Emotionally, physically, are you prepared to face that? The question loomed large, revealing an unsettling truth. Would her family understand the demands of this new life she sought? Would they accept that, with nursing, she'd be adding to her responsibilities rather than diminishing her contribution to the ranch? As the conversation flowed seamlessly, Sarah found herself inching closer to clarity. The passion and drive to help others illuminated a path she had yet to fully understand. More than by just intentions, she would be measured by her actions. And to have the support she craved, she needed to show her family what nursing meant for her personally, rather than just what it would mean for them. Leaving the college, she felt lighter. Yet the challenge ahead now loomed more ominous. She needed to prepare for another conversation, a different kind of storm brewing at home, one that could either break her resolve or fortify her ambitions. Sarah took a deep breath, the weight of impending talks pressing against her chest. Yet beneath that pressure lay a burgeoning determination. She would face them again, this time armed not only with her dreams, but with a well-articulated plan for her future. The thought bubbled with excitement and trepidation. How would they respond? She was ready for that dialogue, to navigate that storm. As she drove home, an unexpected thought surfaced. It was time to put more than her plans into motion. It was time to bridge her dreams with her reality directly. Would they support her if they truly understood her vision? The upcoming conversation would set everything into motion, for better or worse. Tomorrow, she wouldn't just present her ambitions, she would ensure her family felt included in her journey. What revelations would come to light then? Would the clash between her aspirations and their expectations evolve into mutual support, or would it fracture the fragile harmony she fought so hard to maintain? The morning sun illuminated the ranch, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into her sense of purpose as Sarah approached the house. The ordinary sights and sounds of her family's daily routine suddenly felt infused with an urgent need for transformation. Today, she was not just another member of the household, she was a determined woman, with dreams that had pressed against the confines of her upbringing, demanding release. After a quick breakfast, she felt her stomach knotting with anxiety as she prepared for the impending family conversation. To calm her racing heart, she repeated her points in her mind. Details about the shadowing schedule, how she'd balance her responsibilities without neglecting her role on the ranch. Would they be accommodating? Would they see the ambition behind her desire to pursue nursing, or would they insist on the household duties that felt as unyielding as the land they worked? As she paced the kitchen, her mother entered, a strainer in hand, her usual morning routine kicking into high gear. "You look tense, sweetheart. Everything all right?" Caught off guard, Sarah nodded, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. "I'm good. Just thinking about some plans," she managed to say, her throat tightening around the words. Her mother studied her, eyes glinting with the maternal instinct that often sensed unspoken worries. "You know you can talk to me about anything," she offered gently. "Actually, Mom, But the words faltered. How could she begin to explain a divergence from the well-trodden path that had been laid out for her, one built on tradition and familial loyalty? The gravity of her choices settled heavily on her shoulders. It felt almost insurmountable. Just before lunch, the family gathered around the wooden table that had weathered countless meals and conversations. Sarah could already feel the wall of expectation rise as her father, a sturdy figure whose presence loomed larger than life, dug into his plate. "Sarah, everything okay?" he asked between bites, a hint of wrap-up urgency in his tone. Taking a steadying breath, she seized her moment. "Actually, I'd like to talk about some plans I have for the future." Clinking forks paused midair. A silence descended like a heavy blanket. "What's this about?" her father asked, mouth still half full, raising a brow that hinted at protective scrutiny. I want to pursue nursing. I'm planning to shadow at the local hospital, and I believe I can manage my time at the ranch as well, she explained, her voice gaining strength, fueled by the prospect of her dreams becoming a reality. Her mother's face shifted, eyes widening with confusion and concern. Nursing? Isn't that a bit too much right now? We rely on you here. The words struck like arrows. The familiar pang of familial guilt surged within her, threatening to scale up walls she'd just begun to breach. I know you depend on me, but I'm also asking for your support. This could help me make a bigger impact, not just here, but in the wider world, she asserted, injecting passion into her voice while quelling the tremor of doubt. Sarah could see her siblings exchanging glances, unsure how to navigate the churning emotions at the table. Her heart raced. This was the conversation she had anticipated, yet it was playing out like a storm-gathering force. She had prepared for pushback, but the weight of their expectations still loomed heavily over her, even more than the sun scorching outside. Sarah, her father's voice broke through, you know ranch life is a commitment, and you'd be leaving us. What if you can't come back? What if it doesn't work out? The fear in his voice mirrored her own, yet she sensed that her answer couldn't harbor uncertainty. What if it does work out, Dad? What if I become a nurse and bring what I learned back to help our community? A heavy silence filtered through the room, thick as the ranch air before a storm. She sensed the struggle etched in her family's expressions, another internal battle brewing over a clash of dreams and obligations. I'm prepared to show you that it's possible, but I need you to believe in me, she said, her resolve swelling. Just as the tension was about to spill over into an argument, her mother's gaze softened, and her voice softened too, a combination of recognition and caution. I think we all just want the best for you, Sarah, but we need to understand what this means for our family. As her mother spoke, Sarah felt a flicker of opportunity in their collective hesitance. This moment, this exchange, was not just about her resolution. It was about sparking dialogue, an understanding that could broaden their perspectives beyond mere duties and expectations. The table was charged with emotion, different viewpoints entangled like the roots of an old tree. Let's discuss this further, her father replied, and for the first time, exhilaration intertwined with trepidation surged through her. They still had a long road ahead, but the creaking weight of family expectations seemed momentarily lighter. Yet, in the back of her mind, a nagging thought intensified. What would they truly decide once confronted with the realities of her dreams? Could she fully embody her ambitions without fracturing the familial ties she so dearly cherished? With questions bubbling in her mind, she wondered what alignment with her aspirations would truly look like. Although encouraged by their tentative willingness to listen, she couldn't shake the impending realization. This was only the beginning of a nuanced struggle to redefine her identity. As the conversation wound down, Sarah felt a mix of hope and apprehension. The crucial question loomed. How would she consolidate her aspirations not just as a dream, but a shared vision that her family could embrace? What new revelations awaited them in further discussions? And how would they face the inescapable challenges together? As dawn broke the following day, a sense of urgency gripped Sarah. The prospect of her shadowing opportunity at the hospital loomed closer, promising both hope and anxiety. She couldn't shake the weight of yesterday's conversation, nor could she ignore the way her family's skepticism had glimmered behind their initial attempts to support her. Determined, she headed outdoors, the familiar landscape awakening alongside her. The sky overhead mirrored the haze of her thoughts, clouds drifting slowly, uncertain of their purpose. She breathed in the crisp morning air, a resolve taking root in her chest as she mentally prepared to approach her responsibilities at the ranch alongside her aspirations. Utilizing the calm before the day's toil, Sarah sat next to a weathered oak tree. Its rugged strength became her anchor as she penned her thoughts. With each stroke of the pen, a clearer vision emerged, not just of herself as a nurse, but as a bridge between her family's needs and her ambitions. Transforming her dreams into a structured plan was vital, but confronting her own self-doubt felt paramount. How could she navigate the familial expectations while forging her own path? Physical labor filled her day, tending to the animals and mending fences. Each movement was both a reminder of her roots and a test of her growing ambition. As she worked in rhythmic bursts, her mind often drifted back to her last dialogue with her father. The strength of his apprehensions haunted her as both a challenge and a motivator. She repeated her father's words in her mind. What if it doesn't work out? Navigating that fear became a part of her labor, a palpable weight pressing against her shoulders. That night, as the stars illuminated the vast sky, Sarah sat on the porch, desperate for solitude, yet craving connection. Her siblings had retreated to the inside, the warmth of family togetherness contrasting sharply with her internal struggles. The distant sounds of cattle settling for the night served as a soothing backdrop, but her thoughts raced. Would the hospital welcome her? Would the doctors see a girl from a ranch as a serious candidate for nursing? Overwhelming uncertainties pushed her to her breaking point. In a flicker of frustration, she threw the pen aside, while tears threatened to spill down her cheeks, a reflection of her conflict, of her determination battling against her fear of failure. But in that moment of vulnerability, clarity emerged. Nursing was not merely a career choice. It was a personal mission, a means to profoundly impact the lives around her. To navigate the void between her dreams and her reality, she needed a deeper understanding of herself and a definitive strategy. Embracing professional nurturing would allow her to extend compassion beyond her immediate world, providing insights into her familial obligations. With a newfound determination, Sarah realized that this journey was not merely about applying to a nursing program. It required engaging her family's support in a more profound way. She had to create a plan that not only included her ambitions, but also addressed their concerns. Gathering data about the nursing profession, incorporating information on how her skills on the ranch could translate into medicine, and framing her conversation around shared outcomes became her action plan. The following morning, she would confront her family again. This time, she envisioned presenting a detailed proposal. The anticipated conversation was not going to be a concession or an apology. It would be a negotiation infused with understanding, hope, and compromise. Yet deep within, an unsettling thought continued to nag. How would they react to her plan? Her confidence surged with the fire of determination, but insecurities bubbled just beneath the surface. Her journey was still fraught with challenges, and she grappled with the monumental task of balancing her dreams with familial ties. For the first time, Sarah pondered how this could pivot her entire identity, not just as a dreamer, but as a proactive agent of change. Resolved to face these questions and uncertainties head-on, she stood up, pacing the porch under the starlit sky, imagining her family's reactions and carrying the heavy weight of her future. Would they truly embrace her aspirations, or would the roots of their expectations hold her back? Tomorrow would reveal the answers, but tonight, as the stars flickered above, she could only brace herself for the outcome of a pivotal chapter in her life. The sun rose brightly over the ranch, illuminating the fields that had been both her sanctuary and her prison. Today was the day. As Sarah stirred awake, a rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins. The familiar sounds of the ranch echoed in her ears, yet they felt different, charged with hope and possibility. Today she would unveil her proposal, a carefully constructed plan that blended her dreams of nursing with the obligations she felt toward her family and the ranch. She took a deep breath, centering herself as she prepared for the conversation. She had meticulously outlined her plan, detailing how shadowing at the hospital would not only benefit her personally, but would also allow her to bring invaluable skills back to the ranch. A deep-seated conviction had blossomed within her. Her ambitions did not have to conflict with her family ties, they could enhance them. As Sarah made her way to the breakfast table, she could feel the buzz of tension in the air. Her family gathered, engaged in the usual morning chatter, but an unspoken heaviness filled the room, as if they all understood the significance of what she was about to say. "Can I have everyone's attention?" she began, her heart racing. They turned, and she allowed herself a moment to soak in their expressions, curiosity mixed with wariness. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about my future and how I can integrate my passion for nursing with my responsibilities here," she continued, her voice steady, despite the tremor of anticipation. "I want to propose a plan." Her father listened intently, the creases in his forehead deepening as she outlined her vision, detailing her desire to shadow at a local hospital while still committing to the ranch. Each point she made illustrated how her nursing aspirations intertwined with family bonds. She could use what she learned to improve the ranch's operations, particularly in health and wellness. When she finished, a heavy silence enveloped the table. Every eye settled upon her, absorbing the weight of her words. "I know this will take effort from all of us," she added, her resolve hardening, "but I truly believe that this path can benefit not just me, but this family as well." Her mother was the first to break the silence, her voice soft yet laced with concern. I see how passionate you are, Sarah, but what if you don't have enough time to juggle everything? I worry about how we will manage without you. For every minute I invest in shadowing, I promise to funnel that knowledge back here, Sarah replied. I want to create a balance. It's not about leaving. It's about expanding what home means to me, and by extension, to us. With every word she spoke, she saw the flicker of understanding sparking in her father's eyes. You're saying you can help us as you help yourself? He asked, his tone shifting slightly. But what if the demands of nursing become too overwhelming? That's a risk I'm willing to take, she answered boldly. Every profession carries risks, Dad. But with your support, I can navigate these challenges and emerge stronger. Slowly, her father leaned back, arms crossed, weighing her words as silence hung thick in the air again. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. If you can maintain your commitment while pursuing this passion, I can support it. A rush of relief flooded through Sarah, yet she remained aware of the complexities at play. Thank you, Dad. It won't be easy, but I believe this is possible if we work together. I'll create a schedule to keep everything balanced. The realization settled over her like a warm blanket. The ghost of familial expectations no longer loomed large. Instead, it transformed into a shared strength. Her mother reached across the table, placing her hand on Sarah's. We are proud of you, sweetheart. It's clear how much this means to you, and I want to support you in whatever way we can. I'm ready to embrace this journey, Sarah affirmed, a newfound confidence illuminating her spirit. We can face this challenge together. As conversations flowed, they brainstormed ways to keep communication open, to revisit her goals regularly, and to adjust to any obstacles that might arise. There was no denying there would be bumps along the road, but an air of optimism permeated the kitchen. Sarah transformed the daunting path ahead into a collaborative journey rather than a solitary trek. Later that evening, in the stillness of her room, Sarah found herself reflecting on the day. She could hardly believe the transformation. She had moved from a place of uncertainty and fear to a position of shared understanding and solidarity. It was more than professional ambition. It was a personal achievement that reaffirmed her ability to navigate life's complexities. Looking out the window, she saw the sprawling landscape, a panoramic view of her father's legacy harmonizing with the person she chose to become. For the first time in a long while, she felt anchored in her identity. She wasn't just a daughter. She was an aspiring nurse, an agent of change, someone who had the power to rewrite her narrative while keeping her roots intact. As sleep descended, she felt enveloped in fulfillment, a warmth that signaled the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one that carried with it the promise of growth, support, and a balance she had long sought. She had conquered the doubts that threatened to bind her and stepped forward into the light of possibility, ready to embrace the challenges and rewards that lay ahead. Now, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah understood that she was not merely pursuing a career. She was weaving together two worlds, anchored by the past yet boldly striding into the future. Don't wait even one more second to share this journey of transformation. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to show your support for a channel that believes in the power of personal overcoming stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this inspiring journey. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible evolution. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how courage and determination can reshape lives.